Welcome to The Wing, the emotional and financial health check you never knew you needed. We provide tangible solutions for young women to build emotional health and wealth on their journey from school to motherhood. This is the podcast for young women in Australia navigating the big stuff: life, money, and motherhood. From high school to first homes, babies to bank accounts, we take you on an interactive listening journey that helps you make smart, empowered decisions every step of the way.
Hello, ladies. Welcome to another episode of The Wing. Today, I'm introducing our guest, Sonja Steffen. Sonja is the co-founder of The Feeding Zoo, a sustainable children's tableware brand created to help families reduce waste while making mealtimes fun for little ones. The idea was born from her own experience as a mum to an almost 3-year-old daughter and a desire to create products that are better for both children and the planet. Outside of The Feeding Zoo, Sonja works full-time in the public sector and became a director by the age of 35. She's also holds a PhD in animal ethics and has always been passionate about animal welfare, including spending time volunteering as an Australian ambassador for the development in rural Bangladesh, an experience that profoundly shaped her understanding of sustainability, community, and global responsibility. On a more personal level, Son's also an avid horse rider, a lifelong animal lover, and loves spending as much time outdoors as possible, whether that's camping, hiking, or exploring somewhere new. Travel is a huge part of her family life, and her daughter has already developed quite the travel bug herself. Son's commitment to sustainability stems from values that were instilled in her from a very young age by her father. Those values continue to influence both her personal life and her work today. Co-founding The Feeding Zoo with fellow mum Yolanda has been an exciting way to bring together her passions for sustainability, ethical living, and creating a better future for the next generation. Welcome, Sonja.
Thank you. It's so great to be here. It's my first potty, so I'm really excited.
Woohoo! Well, I'm just so happy to have you on here, Sonja. We've known each other for a very long time, and obviously now we're both mums, like in a completely different phase of life. It's just so excellent to see what you're doing. And when I first received your bio, there was things in there that I kind of knew, but I wasn't fully aware of. And it's a very decorated kind of portfolio, I guess, that you've built up over time. And I think it's all got a common theme, which has now come into your sort of founding The Feeding Zoo. And I can say myself, I was just complimenting Sonja before when we logged on about the products that The Feeding Zoo produce. I bought myself a couple of little sets for our kids, and it's just packaged so beautifully and looks gorgeous, feels gorgeous. And I know that there's all these amazing intentions and, sustainability practice, all behind it driving it. It's not just another product. So it was really nice to be able to actually buy from her and, support a local business from some other young mums. So now, Sonja, I thought we'd open with a nice little, what is it called? Icebreaker.
Icebreaker.
All right, so I'm going to let you take the lead on this. So can you tell our listeners, how do we know each other?
This is a great story. And I feel now that we're so far down our path of motherhood, we can have a good solid laugh about this. So Katie and I know each other because we dated the same guy. Shout out to Nick if you're listening to this. Obviously, we have fantastic taste in men, so you can't fault us there. That's how we came to know each other. And that was, I would hate to think how many years ago that was now. But like you said, it was a long time ago. And since then, we've both gone down our paths. We're married, we've got our kids. It's just a whole nother life. But that's how we met.
Oh, totally.
Good old Canberra.
Good old
Canberra. Like there's not 3 degrees of separation or whatever they say, 7 degrees. It's like half a degree, maybe a quarter a degree of separation. If you didn't date the same person as then you're not in Canberra.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And it's just so funny, like watching, like it was kind of like a really smooth handover. Like Sonja was with him first and then it was my turn. And it was just always so amicable. Like, it's all good.
We'd be out at like Hippo having drinks. We'd be sitting down, having a drink outside and just talking, just shooting the breeze, be like, yeah, how's things? We're like, oh, yep. And everyone was like, oh, this is hilarious.
I think
we were
so
setting
many,
the trend. We were setting the standard early.
Yes, absolutely. I think I had so much feedback from friends or observers and just being like looking confused at us even being able to have a conversation. I was like, well, it's only weird if you make it weird. There's no point, what's the point in holding on to any animosity? And there wasn't any in the beginning, at all. Anyway, the funny part now is that's now filtered on to like now I'm in touch quite frequently with Nick's now wife. So, and her brother and her whole family, and
it just rolls on through.
It does.
We set the standard. That's fantastic. I love that for us.
I know, me too. It makes for a much peaceful world. If only every sort of ex relationship and new relationship could go like that.
I know. It would be a completely different world.
It would be. Yes. Yeah. We're trendsetters.
We're trendsetters. I like that. Maybe we should have added that to the bio.
Yeah, we should.
In ex-relationships or something.
Yeah. That's probably a whole other podcast that needs like a very creative name, I think.
That would be a fun one to listen to though.
It would be. It would be really fun. Yeah. So it's only about the positive outcomes. Yeah. I like it. All right.
Yes.
Let's table that.
Tick next time.
Tick. All right, Sonja. So I have some questions for you today, as you know.
All right.
So let's get into it. So firstly, obviously I've done the intro, but I'd love to hear more from you. If you could tell us a little bit more about your work, business, travel-life balance, and what inspired this lifestyle for you.
Well, first of all, there is very little balance. Let me be very clear. And at this point, I feel like I just work to fund my travels. And I'm totally okay with that, just for the record as well. But I think on a more serious note, I think it comes down to being really intentional with how I spend my time and how my family spends their time. I love that I have a career in the public sector, but I've also had a desire to create something of my own and to be able to contribute to the world or the planet in my own kind of unique way. We'll probably come to this in our chat throughout today, and you would have gotten some of it from my bio. Big theme in my life is sustainability, and that's is a priority for my family. It's something that my father instilled in me from a very young age as well. And travel is part of that. So for us, travel is a huge priority. We really want our daughter Sophia to grow up being curious about the world and experiencing different cultures and being comfortable in different environments as well, and learning about that and the impact that you have on the planet. And so a lot of that mindset comes from my dad, and he's really kind of inspired me to have that love of nature and to learn that we all have a responsibility, I guess, to tread more lightly on the planet. You probably know, Katie, other listeners might know, my dad passed quite suddenly about 3 years ago now. And obviously I feel that loss every day still. And I think the person that I am today and the values that I have and that passion for me to want to contribute to the world and make it a better place came from him and came from the upbringing that he gave me. And that's something that I now want to give to my daughter, Sophia. So wrapped up in all of that, I think, is really being intentional about how we spend the time that we have here. And don't get me wrong, our life is very, very busy, but I also don't like to think of it as kind of competing parts of my life. Like they all complement one another, and they all give me something different. I get a different energy from all parts of my life, be it work or feeding Zoo or travel or spending time with my daughter. The only thing I will say about the work-life balance is I wish I had more time with Sophia. I love that I have a purpose outside of motherhood, but I don't love the 9 to 5. I don't love, having to say goodbye to her in the morning and not come back till the evening. So long term, I think the goal would be to have some more flexibility around work and the time I spend working, and also giving me more time to do the things that I love, which includes obviously spending time with Sophia. So hopefully feeding Sue gives me some of that flexibility down the track. But at the moment, that's the phase of life we're in. It's really about being intentional, I think, about how we choose to spend our time and the things we choose to do with it.
Beautiful. I think a lot of mums will be able to relate to that, particularly with the push-pull when it comes to work and having purpose and interests outside of motherhood. It's
such a balance,
isn't it?
It's such a juggle.
It's really hard to, firstly, manage your headspace across two different things that complement one another, but can also take away from each other as well in different ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Like dropping a kid off, as you probably know, to daycare, you know, screaming in your face and just, you know, distraught, and having to, you know, leave that and then 20 minutes, you know, log into a meeting at work and, you know, be like, hi, everyone, welcome. It's just insane. Like, women are superheroes. I've
I
said it so
agree.
many times and I'll continue to say it. Like, women are superheroes.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's it. That mindset shift, like how many people are going through that, you know, daily, and yeah, being able to kind of identify that you're not alone. That's something that is
Yeah.
happening in so many households. But yeah, and like you said as well, like balance, and sometimes it's hard to even know what that is. Like, what is it, and how do I achieve that? And then, you know, you're obviously seeking to do things to, like you said, fund the ability to travel and have those experiences, you know, with your daughter. So it's, you know, in your families that push pull. I think from my perspective, and I've followed Sonja on social media for a long time, and she's very aspirational. So I look at Sonja and I'm like, oh my God, how is she doing this? It's so cool.
Instagram is a highlights reel. It's a highlights reel. Maybe I'll start posting all the behind the scenes, which is far less glamorous.
I actually have to say, I posted a behind the scenes the other day about how we tried to take our 3 kids for a walk. So many parents replied to me and they were like, it's always a great idea on paper, or like just so much commentary and some really funny stories about their experiences on taking kids for a walk. Like, seems like a great idea, but it was the worst idea that we'd had.
It's so true. I love those reels when you see it's like, you know, someone walking on a treadmill and they're holding a little bike, like just practicing, just training for my, you know, daily walk to the park with the kid, because, you know, the kid wants to leave the house and ride the bike, and then you get 50 meters down the road and they're like, oh, mummy carry. You're like, oh my God, come on. So I totally get that. I actually love that. I actually love that content too, on social media. I feel like maybe we need to start another big movement. Maybe we do the behind the scenes of motherhood. It's much more enjoyable to watch.
Yeah. Well, don't stop your aspirational posting, because it definitely lifts me up. I'm like, what? Like, it's great, especially if you're having like a down day, or like, look how, for anyone watching this video today, I know most of you are probably just listening, but anyone watching the YouTube clip, you have a look at how Sonja is dressed and presented, and you have a look at how I am dressed and presented. And that might paint a picture on why I'm posting behind the scenes and Sonja's aspirational. That's actually a perfect.
Full disclosure, this is a good. That is a good comparison. But full disclosure, I am in the office today. If I was at home, I would look very similar to you, Katie. Actually, in fact, I wouldn't even be in a nice looking sweater. I'd be in a stained sweatshirt. So my grey one, which my husband will validate for me.
If you look close enough, there's probably some stains on this one too. I don't know.
It's part of motherhood. Part of motherhood.
That's right. That's right. That was a really nice explanation and a nice little glimpse into your life as well. I think it was very honest and candid. So we appreciate that. Now, what inspired you to start the feeding zoo?
Yes, a great question, and a tricky one to answer, actually. When I was thinking about this, it took me a lot of time to try and think through, to really summarize, I guess, the inspiration behind it. But I think for me, probably becoming a mum, first and foremost, is what really inspired me. It inspired the ideas, but it also inspired me to actually put them into action as well. As you know, I've always kind of cared deeply about, you know, sustainability, about the planet, animal welfare, environmental issues, all those sorts of themes in the world. And having Sphere has kind of really put a focused lens on that for me. And it's made me really think about the kind of world that, you know, we're creating for the next generation, and what world she's going to grow up in. And at the same time, I was kind of seeing, you know, being a new mum myself, I was kind of seeing firsthand just how many children's products exist, but that are designed to be so disposable or quickly outgrown. Like, obviously, basic economics, you know, you want things to last as little as possible so that people are forced to rebuy them and spend money and so forth. That didn't really sit right with me. And so in these kind of conversations in the early days with Yolanda, who is, as you said, my co-founder, also a mum, we kind of realized that we had this shared passion that we wanted to create something different. You know, we wanted to make products that families would genuinely enjoy using, but that were also good for the planet. So, you know, reducing waste or low tox and encouraging those more sustainable decisions and choices for families. And what we actually found in our conversations, and this will probably resonate with a lot of people, I feel like families are forced to choose between products that are either safe and low tox, or products that look aesthetically pleasing and kind of fit seamlessly into the home. And what we wanted to do was to prove that that didn't have to be a trade-off. Like, you can have both. And so our goal when we started this was to create children's products, mostly tableware, but we also, do a range of compostable splat and placemats. We wanted to make things that were kind of thoughtfully designed and that they were genuinely low tox, they were genuinely durable and environmentally conscious as well, while also looking great. Like, we wanted parents to look at them and say, these are beautiful, these look awesome. Like, I want to put these on my table. Because when you think about it, we're all parents, and I'm sure I'm not the only one in this. Like, toys have overridden my house. You walk into my house looks like a kid lives here. And why does it have to extend to the table as well? Like, why can't we have nice things that are also practical and designed for little kids? And that's what we wanted to do. But on a more personal level, I think Feeding Zoo itself, for me, really brings together so many of those things that I've spoken about, that I'm passionate about. Raising environmentally conscious children, making sustainability more accessible to families, and creating products that are better choices for families and kids, I think, is primarily what has inspired me and Yolanda too, to bring the Feeding Zoo to life.
Well, I think you've done exactly that. And I can say that because, like I said, I have some of the products, and being able to sit on my house sounds like your house. It looks like a play centre sometimes.
It does. It looks like Sphere's daycare most days. It's crazy. How does a little human need so many things?
I know. And I feel like I'm constantly reorganising the playroom to make it look somewhat aesthetically pleasing. And then I've got, random bits and pieces particularly to do with the food stuffs. Like, yes. Obviously you often get gifted a lot of that when you start having kids, or when they start solids or whatever it may be. And I cannot tell you, and I really hope you make drink bottles one day, I cannot tell you how much it absolutely burns me to see the amount of drink bottles that we can go through, and like finding something for little they have to like it first of all to even want to drink out of it. Yes. Then it has to not spill and make it, turn into a sprinkler like what my son uses it for. And I give him a hard time on here. I shouldn't. He's adorable, but he's just a typical little boy. But being able to, pull out something really nice, and I think, just have that as part of the aesthetic, and be like, okay, we haven't totally lost everything. I might have lost my dining table chairs to yogurt. I might have lost my space to toy bikes. But if I don't have to lose my nice table situation, then that's one less thing.
It's one win. Yeah. It's incredible. It's stuff, and it's something you can't fully appreciate, I think, until you're a parent and you have kids. And I always said, and this is so comical looking back on it now and reflecting on this, but I always said, if I have kids, I'm not going to, my house is still going to be an adult house. It's still going to look nice. And, I'm not going to let my house be overrun by a child. Oh, ho, ho, how I was so wrong about that. My entire house has been taken over by Sphere. But it's so true. It kind of created even more of an incentive for me. I was like, I don't want another pastel-coloured silicone plate on my dining table. Like, why can't we have nice-looking things that are also still practical? And it's so funny, the amount of DMs that we get from people saying, oh, can you please make these in adult sizes too, is hilarious. So clearly there's a market there. I'm not the only parent that wants something that looks nice. There must be a huge group of people out there that also feel like that way as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Reassuring.
Yeah, definitely. And the options in Baby Bunting and Kmart, wherever else, are, limited. So for a number of reasons. But I love your thinking. I love the lens that you've built the company through. And I know that there's 100% a market for this. We should be allowed to have nice things.
We should have nice things. I'm sure there is a market, and it's very early days, but the little community that we're growing on social media is so engaged. They're so lovely. Clearly there are, a cohort of people like us that feel the same, and it's so lovely to see that as well. Yeah. And that's probably one of the great things I've loved about this as well, is not only is it kind of a creative outlet, but the people that I've met through this, like just the random DMs that I get and the chats that I have with people. I love it. It's fantastic. People are so lovely. It's great. It really feeds the energy.
Well, that's it. And I think you've created something beautiful. So that's what you're putting out. So that's what you're going to be attracting back in. I think that all completely speaks for itself. I think that's, I'm glad. And it really is a community. So if anybody hasn't, and by the end of this podcast, I hope you all do sign up to Sonja and Yolanda's newsletter because it's just very cute and their social media. So don't worry, I will tag everything so you know where to find them. But it's more than just the products. It's building that community too. So I think it's lovely. Sonja, in your opinion, I'm curious to know your answer to this actually. What's the biggest mistake parents make when it comes to feeding kids?
This is a good question. And honestly, I think probably one of the biggest mistakes that we all make, myself included, is probably just putting too much pressure on ourselves and our children, particularly around food and feeding. And I think we can become very focused on whether, they ate enough vegetables today or whether they finished their dinner and, how many, did they get their protein and their iron intake today? When really I think feeding is a long-term journey. And I think what matters most is probably creating really positive experiences around food and exposing your children to a variety of different foods over time and letting them and helping them develop that healthy relationship with eating. And so obviously as a mum of a toddler, Sophia's nearly 3, I obviously know that not every meal goes to plan. And I think that's completely normal. And we need to remind ourselves that that's completely normal. Sometimes consistency and patience and making meal times as fun and enjoyable as possible is important. And it's going to get you so much farther than, if you're just focusing on what they've eaten in a specific day. And I think that's something that probably would be very common amongst most parents. I think we're all probably a little bit guilty of that. Take the pressure off yourselves. You're here for the long haul. It doesn't end in a meal. It doesn't end in a week. It doesn't end in a month. Like your kid learning and developing that relationship with food is going to happen over a very long time.
Yeah, great advice. I was having a conversation with a friend recently and I've had this conversation a few times with a number of friends, just panicking about starting to introduce solids. And it's only since baby number 3 that I've said, well, they're going to eat solids for the rest of their life. So if you are not comfortable doing that, that's when mistakes will happen. That's when they're going to choke for the first time. That's when they're going to have an allergic reaction to something. And if you're not confident in bringing that into the household just yet for your baby or your little one, don't push it. Obviously, there are certain timeframes and things that we need to do in the transition, as they grow older. But I think that's a really nice way to put it. Take that pressure off. It's a long-term journey. They're going to go through different phases where one day they like the pasta and the next day they're throwing it on the floor. And it's not something that we can control or necessarily need to be disappointed about because it's like, okay, well, we'll clean that up and we'll try something different tomorrow.
I love that. Go at your own pace. Like that's such a good point, Katie, about, if you don't feel comfortable doing whatever it is, introducing a particular food or trying a particular texture, don't do it. Wait till you feel comfortable. Wait till you kind of feel like, your kid's interested. The only pressure is, the kind of pressure that society puts on you. Like you say, kids are going to be eating solids their whole life. Have you ever met an adult that can't eat a texture? No. Like, of course your kid's going to learn to eat everything at some point. Don't stress about it. There is no rush. Like, I think that's fantastic advice. Go at your own pace. Everything will happen.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like there's a lot to unpack in that one. And actually, when I was thinking through that one, this is the one I'll probably have the most to say about because of my experiences. Well, the whole topic of feeding and food has become quite stressful for parents and for mothers for quite a few different reasons. I think firstly, there's an enormous amount of pressure that's put on mothers. Right from the moment your baby is born, I think it can feel like you're judged on everything, right? Like, and feeding is no exception. Am I doing it right? Am I doing it enough? Am I offering and feeding the right foods? Why is my child smaller than that child? There's this kind of constant sense that you're being measured against an impossible standard. And I think that is incredibly unhelpful. Secondly, I think we're also living in an age of just information overload. Everyone has an opinion, everyone has an advice, and everyone seems to be an expert on something. And that's all well and fine. But as a new mum, I think especially in those kind of early postpartum months when you're already incredibly vulnerable, trying to navigate all of that noise can be really overwhelming and add to the stress. But on a more personal level, and starting solids and food has been something that I have struggled with myself as a mum. My daughter, Sophia, has always been very, very small. She's always been in the 5th percentile, sometimes less than the 5th percentile. And she's healthy and she's thriving, like she's completely fine. But that, used to create a lot of anxiety for me when she was growing up. I'd kind of find myself constantly questioning, am I feeding her enough? Am I offering the right foods? Am I doing something wrong? Is my milk not enough for her? And I think there's often a lot of guilt that's kind of wrapped up in feeding, even when it shouldn't be. Like, she's just a small person. Mum and dad are both really small. Like, she's always going to be small. But that's just not the kind of rational thinking that I had in those early years. And then I think the really big one for me, and one of the big stresses for family, and you kind of touched on this before, Katie, is food allergies, which have become a huge part of many families' lives lately. And this is something that our parents' generation didn't have to deal with. And I'm sure your parents, Katie, much like mine, when you started your solace journey, your parents probably made comments like, why are you introducing individual allergens? Why are you doing this? We never did that when you were growing up. So unhelpful. But the reality is that they didn't have to navigate, food allergies in the way that we do today. And here in Melbourne, we are actually in one of the food allergy capitals of the world. I think the other one is London. Don't quote me on that. But the rates of food allergies here have increased so dramatically over the past few decades. It's insane if you look at the graph. And so introducing kids and babies to those top 9 allergens is something I think that a lot of parents approach with a level of anxiety. And I know I did. And I can say now that is probably the hardest part for me of being a mother and motherhood. I didn't enjoy it at all. And it's probably the reason I don't want more kids, if I'm being completely honest. Like, I found it really stressful. And part of that is because Sophia does have severe and life-threatening allergies. So she is anaphylactic to eggs and cashews and pistachio nuts. I still remember the stress of sitting down and introducing her to solids and, trying one new food at a time and sitting there then for, 30 minutes watching her, waiting to see if she had a reaction or something happened. And it's really exhausting and it's frightening as well. And so I think, especially for families that have experienced a food allergy or anaphylaxis, once you've experienced that, once you've been told by a doctor that your child would be dead if you had given her a cashew nut at home rather than picking that allergy up through testing, it is terrifying. And feeding stops being a simple everyday activity, and it becomes something that you approach with a level of vigilance that most people have never had to grapple with before. And so I still to this day get super hyper anxiety. Like, when I give her a new food, I'm still sitting there just like, and we obviously carry EpiPens around for her now. So that's reassuring, but I'm still always on edge. And so apart from that stress, there's obviously the practicalities of all of this that adds to another layer in all of this for parents. So, especially if you have an allergy, carrying around EpiPens everywhere you go, checking ingredients on everything, emailing hotels and random restaurants overseas before your holidays, printing allergy cards in different languages, packing an entire suitcase of pantry foods as backups for your holidays, navigating birthday parties and social events where other kids are going to be eating foods that your kid can't eat. It's a constant mental load. And I think, when people talk about why is feeding such a stressful topic for families, I think it's probably that combination of, pressure and information overload, comparison, and then for many families, that reality of health concerns like food allergies. I think the good news probably is that as a society, we're kind of getting more aware and open about some of these challenges. And I think that's important because, like you said earlier, I think when parents realize that they're not in something alone and that there are other people that are experiencing that, it kind of takes away a lot of that stress and that isolation and that guilt. So it's something that I think everyone should continue trying to talk about as much as they can.
Well captured, Sonia. And obviously, I personally did not know about Sophia's allergies and how terrifying. I can understand how terrifying that would be. And you've highlighted every single situation where your mental load is times 100 compared to a child without allergies. I had a conversation with another mum friend not long ago. Her daughter is anaphylactic to dairy. Like, I think the measurement was like, up to 10 is like highly allergic, and her results were like over 100 or something crazy. And she's now started school.
Scary.
It's so scary. And they've had sounds like this similar to you. They've had situations where comes a time when you learn that they're anaphylactic. So there's that in the experience and the trauma that comes with that as it is. And she gave an example where it was like, get something from the canteen. I'm not up to school yet with kids, so don't quote me on this either. But it was something like the kids can take their pocket money and buy something at the canteen that day. So this mum had organised for her own snack to be put behind the canteen, and that would be the snack that her daughter could go and purchase from the canteen. But the instructions weren't followed on the other end. So then her daughter ended up with something, I don't believe it had dairy in it, or it might have been a may contain, which she's still extremely allergic to.
Yes. Yes.
My friend was just absolutely beside herself. She was obviously riddled with anxiety about it in the lead up to. She'd worked overtime to go and help mediate a situation that could have panned out badly, and then still was let down by that. And, why is this such a stressful topic? Because these allergies and the seriousness of this exist in a lot of families. And I think you're right in terms of we have a better understanding of it now, and people seem to be a lot more respectful of it. I think there was definitely that generational gap where it's like, well, don't worry, just give it to them anyway. Oh, they'll be right. We never did that.
Absolutely.
And it's just throwaway comments that can actually be really damaging personally, because you have to listen to it and then you second guess yourself. But then at the same time, our role is to be the protectors of our kids. And if we deem something not to be safe, then yes, there's going to be a limit of there's going to be stress associated with that. Or the commentary about Svea being little, right? I've seen photos and she is a beautiful, delicate, gorgeous, perfect looking little girl. And it would be so frustrating and annoying for you to feel like people are judging you or giving you commentary or suggesting things, and then you get in your own head about it. Even the other day, we were changing our son on the couch and he leant back and we saw a bit of his ribs, and both Jake and I were like, oh my gosh, he's so skinny. He's obviously, he's growing, but he just looked really lean. So then I went into overdrive, and then I had some commentary from some family members in the house a few days later. And I think because I was so tuned into it thinking he's not eating enough, he's not eating the right things, he lives on cow's milk. Yeah, it just amplified it. So yeah, I think you have captured that really beautifully, and that is why feeding is can be such a stressful topic for parents.
It's crazy. I know some of my parent friends who, their solid journey was completely different and they loved it, and it was, completely stress-free, and they really enjoyed it. It was one of their favorite parts. And for me, that's just such a foreign concept. I was like, how could you possibly experience this? Much like your friend with the dairy, that is probably my worst nightmare. I stress about Svea starting school so much. I just kind of can't even comprehend it. I'll cross that bridge in a couple of years when she has to start school. But it is very real, the stress on families, and the experience can be so wide-ranging and so different for everyone. It's really quite interesting in talking to people and parents of kids that don't have allergies, and you can try and explain it as much as you want to them. But I feel like unless you have a kid with allergy, you can't fully appreciate just how difficult and how stressful it is. To other people that don't have allergies, sure, just read an ingredient list and, that should be fine. It's so much more than that. It's about where the product is made and who's touched it, what kitchen has it been made in, is there going to be cross-contamination? It's just terrifying. And it all comes back to, like you said, that your role as a mother, as a parent, of protecting your kid. You don't want anything to happen. And, as they get older, there are going to be situations that are outside of your control, be that school or events or whatever it is. And it gives me anxiety thinking about it now. But, it's such a real thing.
Yeah.
Such a real thing. And I'm so glad whenever a friend has a kid and they introduce solids and they don't have an allergy, I'm just so relieved for them. It's the worst possible thing I feel like a parent can have to deal with. It's just not enjoyable at all.
That's such a nice...
sorry for the kids too.
Yeah, that's it. That's such a nice thing to say as well. It is. It's that sense of relief, that sigh of relief for them. But, because how difficult that situation is. It may not necessarily go away either. It's something that, has to be watched for a long time. So,
for most kids, it'll be their entire life. It's, some they might outgrow, but a lot of them. And I know a lot of kids that have a lot more allergies than Svea, and that's just heartbreaking. My hats are off to the parents that, have to deal with multiple, 10 plus allergies. That's just insane. So difficult.
Yeah.
Fabulous parents.
You all are, yes. Thank you for sharing that, Sonja. That was personal, but very, like I said, very well wrapped. I think that's going to resonate with a lot of our listeners for sure. Sonja, what's one feeding myth that you would love to bust?
Oh, okay. This is probably a little bit self-serving given the feeding zoo, but it's the idea that kids and young kids and babies can't use cutlery. They absolutely can. There's this big idea that cutlery is only for big kids, but I think we actually underestimate just how capable little kids and bubbies are. Toddlers in particular love copying, as you will know, Katie, love copying parents, love copying adults. And I think many kids are ready to kind of start exploring with spoons and with forks much earlier than people realize. Is it going to be messy? Yeah, it's going to be messy, but that's how learning happens, right? Like, the goal isn't to, for them to pick up a fork or a spoon immediately and use it perfectly. It's giving them the opportunity to practice and to experiment with different grips and those fine motor skills as well. And it's really important for kids' development and for coordination, I think. And it also gives them a sense of independence and achievement. And I know that some people might, have a little laugh at that because, can babies feel independence and achievement? Of course they can. Like, it's great for their development. And as a mum, I gave Sphere cutlery quite early on. And I've seen what a huge impact that has had on her feeding journey. Like, she can sit down now and, eat perfectly and it's such a simple thing, but it can have such a big impact on their development. So if it's one myth that I want to bust, it's this idea that cutlery is only for older kids. It is not. Get a set. Get some for your little kid and just watch the magic happen. It's really fun. It's really sweet.
I love that. And I think maybe a lot of parents say that because they don't want the mess. Like, oh, let's just not do that because it's going to be messy and it's just going to have to be one more thing to clean up. But
they can make just as much mess with their hands. Probably more if you're doing these ones, smashing the hands into the yogurt.
Yeah. Or do what my son did yesterday. He had a whole smoothie bottle and he laid down on the couch, popped the lid open and poured it all over himself. Yeah, that was lovely.
No. Geez, parenthood teaches you a whole level of patience, doesn't it? That you just didn't even think was possible.
No, that's it. Or like things you just would never think that you had to police or that would ever happen. It's mess is good. Mess is good. I think that's right.
Oh, the mess. Yeah, I found I pulled back the couch cushion the other day, looked for the remote, and I found like this squished up and like mandarin slice, and all the juice had just gone all through my white couch. And I was like, oh, good heavens.
Oh, my gosh.
No.
That is so funny. You have a white couch too. I think we're the only people with toddlers in Australia that have a white couch. Well, ours isn't really white anymore. But
it's like beige. I'm just in the office and they're just saying they're going to do a fire drill. So if the alarm starts going off, I might have to stop for 1 minute. It only usually takes about 30 seconds or 1 minute.
While Sonja's on mute, it's actually quite funny. She looks pretty terrified there in her office looking around like maybe the sprinklers are about to go on or something. Oh, yep, the alarm's going off. She's blocking her ears.
I think it's over now.
That was the quickest fire alarm ever. It was just a test, obviously. There isn't a fire there.
Yeah, they just do it. And it's just so loud and aggressive. I don't know why they need to do it so regularly. Anyway, one day there'll be a fire and I'll probably thank them for having a fully functional fire system, but not ideal in the middle of a potty. Sorry, everyone.
Oh, so fine. It's all good. Yeah, I love it. You've got a pink drink. I think I have the same pink drink bottle. We both have white couches, and you explaining your snow outfits from 15 years ago sound exactly like mine. Fluoro pink, fluoro green. So
we dated the same person. Like, I think maybe we're just twins.
I think so. I think there's probably more in common than we realize. Not shocking. Oh, that's funny. All right, Sonja, what's the one thing every parent should know about raising healthy eaters?
I kind of said this before, but I think it's really that knowledge that the feeding journey is a long game, right? Don't judge yourself on what your child ate today. Look at the patterns that you're building over several years, because consistency is obviously going to beat perfection anytime. We obviously put a lot of pressure on ourselves, and this is something we've talked about earlier today. There's a lot of pressure to get every meal right or every snack right. But healthy habits, healthy eating habits aren't built in a single meal. They're not built in a single day or even a week. They're built obviously over multiple years and months through exposure and positive experiences and trying to build that healthy relationship. And as a mum, that's something I've had to remind myself of quite a lot. Sphere's always been small. She's got food allergies. It's something that I'm constantly thinking about, constantly worrying about, is she eating enough? Am I feeding her the right foods? Is she going to have an iron deficiency? All those sorts of things. And of course, it doesn't make you think, am I doing something wrong? Do I need to change something? But kind of over time, I've really realized and started to accept that, one rejected vegetable, your past only phase, that doesn't really matter. One challenging week, it's not going to throw your whole trajectory out of whack. It's just part of the journey and you're really in it for the long haul. And I think what matters most is probably that you're creating that positive environment for your kid to try and be exposed to foods. Are your children seeing a lot of variety on their plates? Are meal times generally fun and enjoyable, and playful with your kids? Are they given opportunities to explore different things and build that confidence around eating? Those are the things I think that matter more than, whether they ate 3 bites of broccoli, on a random Tuesday night. So I think the goal is probably to raise children who are curious about food, not that are perfect eaters, that are curious about food, that are comfortable trying new things, and that are capable of listening to their own bodies and what their bodies are telling them. And I think if we can do that, then we're probably setting our kids up for a really happy and healthy life and a relationship with food and eating.
Yeah, again,
Probably easier said than done.
Well, yes. But again, it's that reminder of what you said earlier, like just taking that pressure off. And yeah, I like that. The pasta only phase doesn't last forever, because I'm in the pasta only phase at the moment.
Thea, I feel like, is always in the pasta only phase. Like different types of pasta.
Yeah.
Anyway,
yeah, exactly.
no
I can
judgment.
mix it up with different shapes.
Bobos, spirals, mini balls. There's many. I've realised there are a lot of different types of pasta.
That's probably exactly why. Oh, that's good. Sonja, what has building the feeding zoo taught you about motherhood and business?
Look, I think both are surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, quite remarkably similar. I think before becoming a mum, I was someone that always needed a plan and knowing what I was doing. I'm a Virgo, for full disclosure, so I'm a perfectionist. I love being organised. I am like a Virgo down to T, funny enough, so is Thea. But obviously becoming a mum has taught me very quickly that there are going to be plenty of situations where I do not have that control, and whatever I had organised or planned goes straight out the window, and that's fine. And starting my own business has been very similar in that respect. In fact, it's exactly the same. I think both motherhood and entrepreneurship require a lot of adaptability. I think you're constantly learning, you're constantly being challenged, you're constantly solving problems, and you kind of just have to adjust course when something doesn't work. And you would know this too, Katie, as well from your experience. And nothing comes with a handbook. Motherhood doesn't come with a handbook. Starting a business, starting a podcast, none of this comes with a handbook. You're kind of just flying by the seat of the pants and, learning as you go. So I think probably the biggest lesson for me is letting go of that Virgo perfection, that feeling that we need to get everything right. As business owners, as mothers, whatever it is, I think you're still at risk of falling into that same trap, irrespective of what you're doing. But the reality is that progress is, wins over perfection every time. And so sometimes I think the best thing that you can do is just making decisions and trying to move forward, continue down the path that you've set for yourself. I guess more importantly, probably, I think both motherhood and this is something a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, but motherhood and building a business, I think, have both shown me that I'm capable of much more than I think I am. And, you're pushed out of your comfort zone all the time. Both require a lot of resilience. And when you think you have reached your limit, guess what? You haven't. There's a new limit around the corner. And whatever you thought your capacity was just a warm-up round. So the good news is you're obviously more capable than what you think you are, which is great. The bad news is that life keeps testing that theory, so there is no end in sight. And I feel like that's something you can sympathise with. I feel like a lot of people that are doing something, else, an extra in their life, that will resonate with a lot of people. Like, here's your limit. Ha ha ha. No, it's not. You're going to find a new one.
I could not agree with that more, and I could give you about 15 examples of how that has happened in the last 7 days, and I'm not going to do that because we'll be here for the next 7 days. But absolutely, it's like just when you think you got the handle on something, and you're like, yes, this is working. I'm so great. I could have. I'm going to have 10 kids. This is so easy, and then the wheels fall off, and you have to stop the car immediately and get used to what your new limit is actually going to be.
Meme. I wish I should have dug out that meme. I'll try and find it for you later. It says there's that meme that's circulating, and it's like, as a mum, you think, what is it? It's like you've reached the end of the tether or something, and it's like, but then there's a new tether. What is it? It's like you've reached your furthest point, but there's a even further point. It's so funny. I saw it and I was like, oh, this is so accurate. Like, when your toddler's standing there and they're like, no, you say, if you do that, Sphere, you're in big trouble. And they're like, and then they go and do it. You're like, damn it. There's always a further button that can be pushed.
Absolutely. Oh, yes. And it's terrible when they push them all the different buttons at all the same time. It's just, yeah, I think you captured that well as well. You also said something in there that's one of my favorite sayings. I want to put it on a Post-it note and put it on my mirror, but I know that the day I do that is the day that they're all going to come into the bathroom and want to tear down my Post-it notes. So I hold back from doing it. But so for now, it will sit in my head and probably in my journal. But like, don't let perfection get in the way of progress.
Yes.
You touched on that.
Yes.
I think that's a really valuable thing. And ultimately, when you have kids and you're going through different phases, you do have to let go of some things.
You have to.
Otherwise, you implode, and you can't change your star sign. So you can, manage the qualities that come with your star sign as best you can.
I know. I'm a Virgo fly, so you're stuck. Yeah. But it's so true. Like, you're right. You have to let go of perfection. And I'm amazed it's taken me, I'm not going to say how many years because I don't want to reveal my age, but it's taken me many, many, many decades to learn that you have to let go of perfection, that you can't hold on to it and progress in life. Like, it's just impossible. And that's just part of it, which for a Virgo, and if there are any Virgos listening, I know that you will feel the same. Letting go of that is really hard.
I can almost guarantee there are Virgos listening, because I did a podcast called Unrelenting Standards, and that was after a psychology session that I had, and was like not diagnosed, but like it was one of the things that was clinically meaningful that came out of the session. Then I did a whole podcast on it, and I got so much commentary around people saying like how having unrelenting standards and like obviously like that topic around perfectionism can be really debilitating at times if you are unable to let that go. So it's a thing.
It's such a thing. It's such a thing. That's such a good way of capturing it. It literally can be debilitating and crippling at times.
Definitely. Now, Sonja, finally, before we wrap this episode, my last question for you is, what's your message for parents who feel like they're getting it wrong?
I think you're probably doing a much better job than you're giving yourselves credit for, I think. We've spoken about this a lot today. I think parenthood and motherhood come with a lot of pressure these days, and we're constantly comparing ourselves to other families. We're reading expert advice. We're scrolling on social media. We're wondering if we're doing the right things. It's very easy to focus on the things that we think we're not doing or that we're getting wrong, and completely overlooking all the things that we are getting right and that we're doing really well. And obviously, as a mum, I've had plenty of moments where I've questioned myself as well. And, Sophia is small, she's got allergies, all those sorts of things. And there have been many times that I've been worried about her health and, her nutrition and whether I was making the right decisions. So I totally get that feeling of uncertainty and that doubt that comes with motherhood. But I think what I've learned is that it's not about getting it right all the time. It's about showing up consistently, really loving your child unconditionally, or your children, doing the best that you can with the information and the resources that you have at the time. And I think it's also really important to remember that children don't need perfection. They don't need perfect parents. They need parents that are going to show up. They need parents who care. They need parents who are willing to learn along the way with them. So, if you're lying awake at night thinking and wondering about if you're getting things right or wrong, I think that's a pretty good sign that, you're a good parent and that you care deeply about your child. The fact that you're getting worried about it in the first instance probably means that you care enough to get it right. And I haven't, and I challenge anyone else, like, I haven't met a parent that will say, yeah, I'm absolutely nailing it. I'm a great parent. Like, I am yet to meet that person. I challenge anyone. If you have, I'd love to meet them. We're all just making the best decisions that we can with, the information that we have. And obviously then just getting humbled by a toddler about 5 minutes later. So if you think the perfect parent exists, please let me know. I would love to meet them.
So far, look, I have a lot of conversations with a lot of different people, and I don't think they exist. They don't. It's
a myth.
Yeah, that's right. That's a myth. That's another myth we have to bust. There is no perfect parent. We're all
that's another myth bust. Yeah, that's a good one.
No, I love that. I think, consistency, right? Like, it's what they want. They want to see you in the morning. They want to see you at night. They want you around. They want you at all their things. Right. They want to be with you. They don't need, to have,
they don't need everything in the world. Like, they need their parents. And I feel like if your kid is happy and healthy and loved, then that's what matters. And it makes me so happy. I love going to the park and looking around at the random families that are in the park and how they interact with their kids and just how happy the kids are playing, at various ages with their parents. And I love watching my friends raise their kids in different ways. Like, I think the beauty of parenthood is that it's just such a unique journey for everyone. But fundamentally, if you get the fundamentals right, if you love your child, if they're happy, then, the rest is extra.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice. The rest is extra.
Although I will have to play this back to Sophia one day because she asked me last night, she is demanding that we buy her a small black pony with a pink saddle. So I need to remind her that actually what matters is just that your parents love you, Sophia. We're happy, we're healthy, and we love each other. You don't need a pony. And she will turn around and we'll compromise and I will buy her a pony, I'm sure.
We'll compromise and we'll get the pony anyway.
I might buy one for myself while we're at it.
Yeah, why not, dude? See if you can get a 2-for-1 or something.
2-for-1 special. Oh, dear.
Oh,
My husband will kill me when he hears this. Sorry, Cal.
Or you'll say that just as long as you're loved and you're safe and you're warm, blah 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 blah, and the rest is extra. And she'll turn around and she'll say, "Can I have the extra, please?"
Oh, kids. Kids. Love being a mother.
Yes. Yeah. No, you did. That was such a valuable conversation, Sonja. I think there's so many valuable tidbits in that our listeners can take away and listen, not feel alone. My goal is always to help at least one person from every podcast, which I quantify by social media replies and feedback and things from people that I talk to or people that reach out or want to be on the podcast or, just are on the podcast. And so I think that we really appreciate you being so open to sharing your personal journey. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to make sure that Sonja and Yolanda's business, The Feeding Zoo, is tagged so you guys can all find them and get some nice, sustainable and aesthetically pleasing products for your kids. And anyone with a baby can trial them out with a little spoon. I did that actually with our baby, and it's amazing the natural kind of ability. Like I was feeding her mashed banana with the spoon, with your spoon, and then she was sort of reaching her hands out a bit, and I just handed her the spoon to go do something else, wash my hands or whatever it was, and she was just holding it and kind of guiding it towards her mouth like that was, and I was watching that, and sometimes. It's so interesting. And sometimes now, like even while I'm prepping her food, I might just hand her the spoon with nothing on it just to see, to honestly, just to kind of get her off my...
have a look at it.
Yeah. And get her off my back for 30 seconds while I go do something.
Yeah, great. Anything that can distract them for more than 10 seconds is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
But you're so right. Like it's about the exposure, right? Like in the spoons and forks, for those of you that might not have seen, they kind of got like a hollow handle shape. So there's so many different grip options from, for babies and for older kids as well, that it kind of makes it quite interesting. And I do find it fascinating watching the kids pick it up in different ways. Like some of the kids will put their hand around the whole handle. Some will use like the internal grip. It's fascinating. But the earlier you expose them to them, the more exposure they'll get. And, it's great for their motor skills development as well.
Yeah.
It's good. Everyone should jump on online and have a look.
Yes, definitely. Big push from my end for you all listening to go and have a look at The Feeding Zoo.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been fantastic. It's the first podcast I've done. I've really loved it. I love having a chat. It's great. Yeah, I think it's great to have a platform that can, bring people together, but also share and unpack some really important issues and ideas in life. So it's fantastic what you're doing. And thank you so much for having me and giving me the opportunity to talk a little bit more about, my life and my ambitions and my little family as well. It's been really nice.
Absolute pleasure. You're a very easy guest to select. I'm just so glad you said yes. And obviously we have an interesting story to just, on the way that we started it all. So I think that it's nice that we ended up on a podcast together.
I know. I love it. And now next time I'm back in Canberra, I'll have to hit you up and we'll have to go for a horse ride.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes, please.
We should do that. We should absolutely do that.
I would love that. They're very accessible here, as you know. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. It might be the reason. Maybe I'll have to move back to Canberra for that reason alone.
Yeah, I do have to say that is one of the greatest benefits of living here, that we do have close horse access and snowfields access too. So I mean, you used to live here, so you know all the features, but I don't need to sell it to you.
I know. It's so funny. Like now that I've moved away from like Canberra, I'm like, I hated living in Canberra. But now that I go back and I don't live there, I'm like, I understand why my parents chose here and why other people have stayed here. Like it's clean, it's safe, it's easy. Like, and my husband, Cal, who's from Victoria, like he's grown up in Victoria and he comes back obviously for Christmas and stuff like that. He loves Canberra. And he regularly is like, I could live here. I quite like Canberra. I'm like, what? Maybe it was just all in my head this whole time. But maybe maybe we'll make the trek back, the the pilgrimage back to Canberra.
You never know. You never know. It's so often that people end up back at their roots. So it wouldn't surprise. We have an international airport now, so you could still do a lot of travel.
I love Canberra Airport. It is the best airport in Australia. Like, it is. I'm sorry if anyone disagrees with that. You're wrong. It is so good. It's so good.
It's good.
Even if it's international.
Yeah, that's right.
But
yeah, it doesn't go many places. It's very selective on its international routes, but they do exist.
They do exist, and it is a nice, new and very efficient airport.
Yeah, that's right. All right. Well, thank you to everybody who listened to this episode of The Wing. Thank you to our guest, Sonja. And we hope you got some value, and we will catch you on the next episode of The Wing. Bye-bye.
Enjoyed the episode? Hit follow and check out _wing pod Oz on Instagram for a dose of wisdom getting you on the right path to success.